Chappell Roan is in hot fire again, okay? This girl, every time she opens her mouth, everybody mad at her. They be like, oh, Chappell Roan, she's so unlikable. I mean, I don't know too much about her, but she came onto the Call Her Daddy podcast and shared her thoughts on parenthood. And this is what she had to say.
All of my friends who have kids are in hell. I don't know anyone. I actually don't know anyone who's like happy and has children at this age. I have like a 1-year-old, like 3-year-old, 4 and under, 5 and under. I literally have not met anyone who's happy, anyone who has like light in their eyes, anyone who has slept.
These are not looking too good.
I'm like, why did my parents do that? I'm the oldest of 4. My mom had me at 23.
So she gave her opinion on parenthood, basically saying that every parent that she knows who is her age is freaking miserable. By the way, she's 27, I believe. So she's in her late 20s, almost 30. And, she gave, what I would consider to be a pretty generic opinion. And baby, the mothers especially did not like that. And they were all up in the comments dragging Chappell Roan, okay? People were upset, especially women, especially moms were upset, and basically were complaining that, here she is. Why are childless women talking about women with children, which she wasn't. She was talking about parents. She said parents. She never said mothers, but a lot of women took that as an affront. A lot of mothers took that as an affront and jumped into those comments. They were saying like, spreading this idea that every parent is miserable. She didn't say every parent. When you find yourself strawmanning an argument and making up things that someone said just so you can be, have an argument against it, that's called strawmanning, y'all. She didn't say that every single parent out there is miserable. She said every parent that she knows, so she made it very personal, right? But this just, it just set a lot of people off. And I just felt like nothing she said was monumental. I think a lot of hit dogs were hollering in them comments. I think there were a lot of moms who were miserable, who saw that video and it triggered something inside of them. That's what happens, right? When you see something that is, referring to something about you, yeah, sometimes it can trigger you, right? So I feel like a lot of these women in the comments felt triggered by this comment because they are hit dogs, right? They are the people that she's talking about. And denial isn't just a river in Egypt, right? So a lot of times what happens when, someone says something about you that you don't want to acknowledge and admit to yourself, you react. You get reactive and you get defensive and you try to prove them wrong, when really what you should be asking yourself is, why am I so reactive to this? Has this hit like a truth bone somewhere in my body? Has this, is there some truth to what has been said that I need to unpack in myself? But a lot of times, instead of us doing that, we end up getting defensive as hell because we're in denial and we react and we jump into comment sections and we go off. And I just felt like what Chappell Roan said was very basic and normal. I think she's right. A lot, if not all. I'm not gonna say all, but like I'm not gonna say the majority. I'm not gonna say the majority, but I'm gonna say a lot of y'all parents, especially mothers, but parents in general, y'all are fucking miserable. Okay. And there are a million reasons for that, right? It's not just, this idea of like, well, you made a bad decision. It's not about that. I feel like instead of her commentary opening up a discussion for why are mothers miserable? Why are parents miserable? Right? That should have opened up that discussion where we could talk about things like the lack of societal support that parents have, the lack of support from government, from community, the lack of village that parents have, the fact that 90+% of child rearing and childbearing falls on women and mothers. This is I feel like the conversation that we could have opened up based on Chappell Roan's comments about parents and how the parents that she knows are miserable. But instead of us opening that conversation up, it was a bunch of defensive mothers in the comments being like, nope, that's not me. That's not me. And it's like, girl, you sure that's not you? Because you seem awfully offended. Because most people who it's not will just be like, oh, well, that's not me. But I understand what she's referring to. Also, she was referring to her own personal life. But I just feel like, that was a great opportunity for us to ask the question, why is this the case? Why are so many parents miserable in parenthood in this society, in this culture? Why are so many mothers especially exhausted, burnt out, miserable, depressed, anxious, etc., etc., etc.? Why? That to me is the conversation that needs to be had, not just like being mad that Chappell Roan said that the parents that she knows are miserable, right? And so, for me, obviously the answer to a lot of that question is we live in a society that does not value parenthood. It does not value motherhood, especially. It does not value women's work and taking care of children, rearing children, bearing children, carrying children. That is women's work. And we live in a patriarchal capitalist society that devalues women's work so that women can work for free, to be the bottom of the pyramid, to hold up this capitalist society. And that's what we should be talking about with regard to Chappell Roan's comments. Because she right. A lot of y'all are miserable, but the real question is why? And when we answer that question, then we can come up with solutions, like bringing back the village to support women, making sure that women's work is valued and paid, and that women have support and mothers have support, and that it doesn't just fall 100% on the mother. Got the daddy out there in the living room on the couch playing video games while mom is taking care of everything and she got to write a list so dad can get shit done. Got to hold dad's hand. We should be having that conversation. We should be having the conversation about how society does not support families and mothers. We should be having that conversation, how we should be paying women to have children. We should be paying women to carry children, to birth children, and to raise children. Because women's work is work. And it should be valued and it should be compensated. That's the conversation that we should be having. And, I gotta say, I've been kind of mulling this theory over recently now that I understand